TK, the Raisin Man.
All right, man. We are back, ready to get into the Houston Texans, man. I'm your host on Popular Opinion Sports here with my two co-hosts, Big Pat Sports Talk and Coach Ed Gladney, man, the legendary Coach Ed Gladney, man. How y'all feeling today, man? How y'all feeling tonight, man? About this team?
Man, feeling pretty good, man. We talking about this AFC South where it's just the Texans and everybody else basically. But you might have a couple of teams and the Jaguars, the Titans had a number one pick. Jaguars, they got who they got in the draft. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later. And the Indianapolis Colts, they got an old Giants quarterback that's looking like he's gonna start because their franchise quarterback Anthony Richardson is not panning out. I think he's hurt again, but we'll talk more about that going into the show.
But Coach, man, how you feeling, man? What's your thoughts on this division, man, as a whole before we get into it?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking, man. As a whole, and doing some research, and reading a couple of articles, and this division may not be per se Houston's as everyone thinks, if one of those other teams are able to step up. I mean, Houston won the division at 10-7 last year, 2 games over Indianapolis. Think about that. They only won it by 2 wins. So you win the division. So, and everyone speaks highly of Houston. And don't get me wrong, great coach. They're ascending, they're headed in the right direction, but are they really there? So this division, when you really dive into it and you look into it, it may not be a division that can challenge for a Super Bowl just as yet. But it's all so contingent upon one of those other teams stepping up and challenging Houston for the division supremacy. Because if not, then Houston may get in with 9, 10, 11 wins. Who knows?
Yeah, let's take a deep dive on the Texans, man, and let's just see if they do have what it takes to take this division over once again, man. 10-7 last year, as you mentioned, Coach. MGM has them projected at 9.5 wins, and we're gonna give our over/under here a little bit later, whether we think they're gonna go over or under. So just keep that in mind. Strength of schedule, not too bad of a strength of schedule ranking for the Texans. 18th, under 500, man, for the total teams. That is based on last year's record, though. So it can be one of those things where it could change drastically depending on how these teams do this year. So, but that's what they are looking at going into this season. And as you see on the screens, D'Amico Ryans, CJ Stroud, that's 1A, 1B, man, when it comes to the importance of this team, their head coach and their quarterback. And I mean, CJ Stroud took a little bit of a step back last year. A lot of that was due to his offensive line play, but that is what makes the engine go. Those two guys right there on the screen for the Houston Texans. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the moves and some of the things the Texans did in this offseason and see if they are set up to repeat as division champions. So let's get into it, fellas. So I'm gonna start here with the key losses. Now, they did have some turnover here. As you can see, trading Laramie Tunsil to the Commanders was one of those head-scratching moves, if you want to call it that. Not sure why they did that, but then they traded another offensive lineman, Kenyon Green, to another division NFC East rival, the Philadelphia Eagles. We lost Devin White to the Raiders, Jeff Okudah to the Vikings, and of course Stephon Diggs, the big one, going on to the Patriots. Which one of these losses, man, or which are multiple, if you want to call it that, but which one you think is going to hurt the Texans the most going into next season? Which one of these players?
The one that hurts them the most?
That by not having them, which one of these losses?
It's probably Laramie Tunsil, the offensive tackle, if you consider that hurting them. Because I'm looking at this, they got rid of their whole offensive line. Like, good grief. So they were not playing about protecting C.J. Stroud last year because they didn't. C.J. Stroud struggled last year because he didn't have the offensive line in front of him that was blocking the year prior. And with Laramie Tunsil, they got rid of him. That means everybody else was expendable too, what you see. Stephon Diggs, that can hurt a little bit. But as far as the defensive wise, they didn't lose any of their heavy hitters on defense. Devin White was a backup. Jeff Okudah continuously gets roasted. Eric Murray, maybe, but I'm just more concerned about getting rid of your whole offensive line. What was their plan going into this season for the offensive line? That's the major key there, because Stephon Diggs could be replaced in that offense. He can be.
I'm with Pat,
man.
in terms of I'm with Pat, in terms of talking about the offensive line. I mean, if you had struggled with the offensive line and then to lose 4 offensive linemen like that, who do you bring in to replace them, first of all? Second of all, first of all, Laramie Tunsil, why did you get rid of him? Why did you trade him? Because in the NFL, you do not trade your left tackle.
Yeah.
So if it now is it addition by subtraction with him?
Coach, is he washed?
Exactly. Is he on the downside? So that's why you trade him. Now once you get rid of all these guys, especially your interior of your offensive line, you see right there, you're getting rid of 3 guards. So that's right in CJ Stroud's face right there off the bat. So, who do you bring in to stabilize, that part of the offensive line more than the tackles? Because that's immediate. It's a defensive lineman. You want a straight rush, right? The shortest distance is right in the middle to the quarterback's face. Get him off his points, make him move. And CJ Stroud is not one of those athletic per se quarterbacks. He can move a little bit, but he's not going to scare you with his feet. So, that's something that you have to sit down. You have to really evaluate, and you have to say, okay, well, they got rid of these offensive linemen. They weren't. Their blocking had some problems last year. So who did you bring in? So if what you bring in offsets this, then okay, fine, it's an upgrade. But if it's not, then right now you're putting this young quarterback going into year 3 on the ropes. And as I said in the intro, this division is not Houston's to walk away with, to be honest with you. You can have one of those other teams, if they can really step up, overtake Houston.
Yeah, and speaking of additions, we're going to talk about the key additions. But the one thing you guys hit on was the offensive line. C.J. Stroud sacked 52 times last year, second most in the NFL by starting quarterbacks. So let's see if they got the boy any help. Oh yeah, they did a lot. They did a lot.
My goodness.
In the off season there. Names may be hard to read, but I will go through some of them, starting with the offensive line. Trent Brown signed a 1-year deal, $3 million. Cam Robinson, bringing him over on a 1-year deal as well. Also acquired Ed Ingram in a trade with the Vikings. Offensive guard Ed Ingram. Laken Tomlinson signed a 1-year deal with the Texans as well. So they did bring in some pieces for CJ Stroud. Also signing Nick Chubb, Christian Kirk, Justin Watson. So they're bringing in a couple receivers here, and we'll take a look at what they did in the draft. They did add some pieces on defense too. Sheldon Rankins, of course, re-signing Derek Stingley Jr. was the most important thing they could have did, and they also brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Did they do enough though? Did they do enough to help out C.J. Stroud? Just looking at free agency right now, guys. What's your thoughts? I'm
gonna tell you something. I'm worried about CJ Stroud because unless those dudes have some kind of career resurgence, Laken Tomlinson was trash when he got his contract from the Jets. Trent Brown has not been the same. Cam Robinson can't stop getting penalties. Ed Ingram, he got traded from the Vikings because he got outplayed. Like, I am, man. Yeah, I don't care who you got there on offense. If their offensive line plays like they have been playing, and I'm talking about the guys that they brought, CJ Stroud, you better go get some Lamar Jackson treats because he's gonna be out there running. Man, that's bad.
Yeah, it's bad over there.
That's why they all got 1-year deals. Okay.
Thank you, Pat. That was my whole point. You know, that's the first thing that that really clicked in my head. I'm like, well, you're giving them a 1-year deal, so you're trying to tell them to show me that you have something.
Yeah.
But you want them to protect your franchise quarterback, and it's not just one player coming in on a 1-year deal. You got 3 of them. And then, you know, Ed Ingram, who got traded in from Minnesota, couldn't stick in with Minnesota. So, you know, Minnesota said, hey, take him because they brought in an upgrade over what he brings to the table. So, yes, this is a concern. So the only thing I'm going to say is seeing that Nick Chubb is there, and then I'm not saying he's elite, but are they going to be more geared to trying to grind it out a little bit more and get into play action to help take some of the heat off of the pass rush in terms of, you know, getting after the quarterback? Because right now, this is a concern for me too, Pat. You know, I mean, you know, Cam Robinson, you couldn't stick out with Jacksonville.
Yeah,
Jacksonville. Come on, man. You know, I mean, and you know, Trent Brown, like you said, you know, he is he on the? I mean, right now, with giving up Tunsil for Brown, it's like, it really doesn't.
I think the offensive line got worse. If your tackles are Trent Brown, Cam Robinson, and your guards are Ed Ingram and Laken Tomlinson, you might have a problem.
That's where the run game comes into play, and that's where I'm looking
Mixon at. And Nick Chubb, get your chin straps ready because you're gonna be running.
That's what I'm saying, Pat. It's you know, you looking at this. I mean, yeah, you have some nice little skill position, you know, and you throw in Irv Smith as a tight end, you know, right down the seam for the quarterback. Okay, you know, little things like that. Okay,
Christian Kirk.
You got Kirk, you know, I mean, you know, to add on to oh man, I'm sorry. It's name. Go ahead, Pat.
It's gonna be the quick game over there with the Texans. Get the ball out quick. Let what's my boy, the receiver, Nico Collins, you know, get those deep in routes that they seem to get him wide open on all the time. But their defense is gonna have to step up, and that quick passing game is gonna be key, man, to stop that pass rush from coming in there so fast. Because Yeah, just based off this, man, that is crazy.
We did add some pieces in the draft, fellas. So let's take a look at what they did in the 2025 NFL draft, and then we'll take a look at the overall state of the roster. Um, so they did bring in Arante Irsay,
He's
offensive
gonna have to
tackle out
start
of
immediately.
Minnesota. I do love the addition of the two Jalen's out of Iowa State, Jalen Higgins and Jalen Noel. Running back Woody Marks is somebody that me and you scouted, Pat, down at the Senior Bowl. He should add a boost to their running game. And I mean, Jalen Reed, safety out of Penn State. Hopefully he can help out, backup safety over there for the Texans. But like you said, man, I think the key here is really Arante Irsay, the tackle, man. He's gonna have to be the key to this draft, because that offensive line, man, it's hurting right now. It's not looking great, But which one of these draft picks do you think can have the biggest impact, Pat?
Be honest with you, the one they need to have the biggest impact is Arante Irsay, and I do think he will have that big impact. I just noticed, man, the Texans like a lot of dudes named Jalen Noel, Jalen Smith, Jalen Reed, Jaden Higgins, but that's crazy. A guy that people are not going to be talking about a whole lot is that guy Luke Lachey, Iowa tight end. I think he's going to be the starting tight end by the end of the year. I don't know how he fell to the 7th round. How does an Iowa?
I think we might have lost Pat for a minute. Okay, you're back now.
Yeah. I think Jalen Noel is going to make a huge impact because they're going to have to get the ball out quick. And I can see them using Woody Marks as a third down back, to catch the ball out the backfield for them in certain situations. But Arante Irsay has to be the biggest impact in this draft.
Yeah, what's your thoughts, Coach?
I'm with Pat. It's going to be contingent upon Irsay, to come in. I mean, he's a big boy, so you're coming from Minnesota, which goes back to what I was saying earlier about the run game. I mean, you have a big body player like him, you want to try and grind it out a little bit more. So, because initially, is he going to be able to adapt and adjust to handling the speed in the NFL? Yes, he comes from the Big Ten, so, you did go up against some pass rushers out in the Big Ten, but, it's a different ball game when you get to the NFL. So, and again, him adding to the offensive line, can it help? Hopefully it does. But right off the bat, it's still going to be a concern because, also you only added one offensive lineman in this draft, just one. You got rid of four. Yeah. and
you took a page out the Giants playbook.
Yeah. So this is a concern of mine right now. When thinking about the Titans, and and when you look at their schedule. And you break it down and you go over it. I mean, right off the bat, you're going up against two division winners. Yeah.
We're going to preview the schedule. That's going to be this. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great right now for the Texans. But let's take a look at their overall roster here. Got it pulled up, man, and let's just try to pay attention because we've been talking a lot about the offensive line. So right now, Cam Robinson is slated to start at left tackle. You got Laken Tomlinson right there at left guard. You also have let's pull it up a little bit for you guys. You got Titus Howard, right guard. Blake Fisher at right tackle. Oh boy,
I forgot they got Blake Fred.
And Arante Irsay, I guess they're looking for him to probably replace Cam Robinson at left tackle. So now they look good skill position wise. You know, we'll see what happens with Tank Dell, but Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel definitely going to boost that receiving core, as well as bringing you still got Nico Collins. You brought in Christian Kirk. You know, Dalton Schultz, the tight end, he's still there. He's got Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb in the backfield. So I think offensively, from the skill position, they're pretty nice. They're pretty set. Going over to the defense real quick, Danielle Hunter. You know, you got Will Anderson Jr. You know, so you got some pass rush there. You definitely have a nice little 1-2 punch there from your pass rush. And you got Stingley and Jalen Petrie that back in the backfield, and you traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Might not be what he once was, but still a pretty good safety in this league. And you drafted, of course, like I mentioned, Jalen Reed, safety out of Penn State. But looking at this roster, man, how do you see this playing out, man? What is going to have to? Where's the strength of this team? Strength and weaknesses, man. Talk to me, fellas.
Strength of this team, man, is going to be in the pass game, man. They're going to have to be very strong in the pass game in order to be successful this season. And what I mean by the pass game, the quick pass game to set up the run, because I don't trust that offensive line, man. I don't trust it. Even though Blake Fisher, I forgot they had Blake Fisher, he's half decent. But CJ Stroud's gonna have to work that magic that he had in that very first year, his rookie year. And they have the receiving core to do it, man. They're like 7 receivers deep.
Yeah, they got some guys.
Yeah, they got a guy, even with Tank Dell being probably going to be hurt for the whole season. You know, they got 2 people to replace him, and Christian Kirk and Jalen Noel out of the draft. So they'll be fine on offense as long as they can get that ball out quick and set up the run with those quick screens and things. So I don't think you're going to be able to see that deep down the field pass offense the way they were doing CJ Stroud's rookie year. And you're going to see a lot more what they did last season when that offensive line started to struggle, get that ball out quick and put that thing up to Nico Collins and let him go get it. I'm looking for Nico Collins to have a big year this year as well. But the offensive line scares me, Coach. I'm going to be honest with you.
I'm with you in terms of the offensive line. You know, right now, in terms of the strength, I'm going back to the run game, because if I'm looking at this, I'm looking at you got to run the ball. You have to set up the rock and play good, sound, fundamental defense, you know, and you know, it can't be a high scoring type of a venture in terms of offense. You can't expect them to go out there and score 30 and 40 points, you know, on an average. I'm not expecting that. You know, if you're telling me they're going to score a little bit over 20 points a game, maybe 21 to 24 points a game, okay, I can see that and play good, sound defense, you know. And when I was looking at the stats, I mean, which was another concern for me, they scored 372 points last year, but they also gave up 372 points, which goes back to what I was saying. You have to be sound in the run game and play good fundamental defense. You know, don't let teams get over the top on you. Keep them in front of you, and rally to the football and make the play on the ball carrier and make offenses work down the field. You know, right now, you know, with that offensive line, you know, Pat, I know you talked about the quick game, which is another extension of the run game. You know, yes, you want to attack them horizontally before you can get to them vertically, you know, as well as open up nice creases in the run alleys. You know, that's what they're going to have to do, in my opinion. You know, you number one, to protect CJ Stroud. You know, you don't want to get him killed out there, dropping back, you know, 30, 40, 50 times a game and letting the defense tee off on him, because I don't trust. I mean, you know, Cam Robinson is just starting left tackle, and he couldn't even, you know, get the right tackle job in Jacksonville. That's a concern for me. That's a concern.
That's a major concern. But
yeah, man, that is a concern, man. But again, you know, what about this defense, though, fellas? What do you think the Texans and we'll preview the other teams. But how do you think their defense stacks up, man, as far as their division is concerned?
Oh, I think they got the best defense in the division. I don't think it's close. I don't think it's close.
Well, that's something that could, that's something that could, really hold them down, as they maybe figure this offensive line out. I'm with you guys. I don't think they're going to be this high scoring, high flying team like they used to be, man. You can't play that style, man, when you can't protect for no longer than 2 seconds,
we're gonna see if D'Amico Ryans can get that defense playing the back the way they was playing his first season over there with the Texans, because he's really gonna have to put his defensive swag on this team this year. Not saying the Texans offense is gonna be trash. I still think they get around 21 to 23 points a game. And if their defense shows up, they can win a lot of games. And I think they could really win a bunch of games in their division, and that will get them in the playoffs in itself. So I just think that those offensive line struggles are going to show up against good teams. That's when I think the Texans are going to struggle, when they face the playoff teams in the AFC.
And speaking of, man, good transition, man.
Schedule, man.
Let's get to the schedule, man.
I mean, you're playing the AFC West and the NFC West right there off the bat. You're playing those two divisions, so you're playing, the Chiefs. You're playing the Chargers, who are not an easy out. Denver, Denver has that tough defense. The Raiders, okay, you can question the Raiders. They're still a work in process. When you go over to the NFC, I mean, you can say, okay, the NFC West teams are, they were okay. I mean, they weren't the greatest. Los Angeles right off the bat. I mean, you go to LA, the first game of the season. Yeah, and you're starting against two division winners. Now, look, it's the NFC South, but Tampa Bay is not a slouch. They're not a slouch. They can still play a little bit of football. So, right there, do they come out 0-2, or can they come out 1-1 to start off the bat? Before you start getting into league play, division play. So, but go ahead, Pat. You the schedule right here.
I actually think they start off 0-2 because that offensive line is going to have to gel, and Tampa Bay's defensive line ain't no joke. And the Rams pedigree on the defensive line. The Rams coming at you. So I think they can start off 0-2, but then I think they get back on track with two division games. Like I said, Jacksonville, Tennessee. Then you go to Baltimore. I think that's going to be a struggle. I think that's going to be a huge struggle. Then you get your bye week, and then you got 6 weeks with that offensive line. Let's say they gel. I think they can beat Seattle. I think they can beat San Francisco. Now, Denver, on the other hand, that might be a butt whooping. I ain't gonna lie to you, that might be a butt whooping over there. Denver. But every time they get a bad team, guess what they get? Division games. So you get Jacksonville and Tennessee right after another hard game.
Back to back, too, yeah.
And then Buffalo, who knows what Buffalo, because Buffalo might have one of those games where Josh Allen can't create that magic. And they might lose them to the Texans. Then you get another division game in the Colts. Kansas City. I think they could play well with Kansas City, to be honest with you. I think they could beat the Cardinals. They could definitely beat the Raiders. That's another butt whooping with the Chargers, I believe. I believe the Chargers are going to run the ball very well against them. I truly believe that. And then you get another division game right after that. So I can see them having a good season.
Pat, see, I have to disagree with you on one key point, because you said the Seattle game is coming after a bye, and it's a Monday night, and you're going out to Seattle. That's tough. And Frisco had a lot of injuries last year. They really did. Now, what Frisco team are we going to get? Are we going to get championship contender in San Francisco?
No.
Or are we going to get more of a version of what we saw last year? I'm still waiting to see with Frisco. But, if they can get anything in between those two games are still tough, man. To me, those are they win them? Yes, you're right. They can win them. But I don't think they're going to be, you can pencil them in as a win in that regard. especially coming out of the bye and you're going to Seattle on a Monday night. Wow, that is
tough.
Turn around and play San Francisco and sit after a Monday night game. That's where I'm like, okay. And don't forget, before that, Baltimore's physical, so is for Baltimore. I mean, you're going to be in a tough defensive game. Do you lose any? I mean, what about Knicks and I don't wish that on anybody, but do you lose anybody during that game? And Baltimore is going to come after C.J. Stroud, and that, so right there, that really concerns me. Those 4 games, because I'm going to throw Denver in there because Denver plays that tough defense. Those 4 games right there, that's really tough stretch. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, can they be 2-2 when they play Baltimore? Yeah, I'm probably going to say 2-2. Best case scenario, 3-1. But then, it really starts to hit. Baltimore, yes, you get the bye, but then you're going out to Seattle on a Monday night and then come back home after short rest to play San Francisco and then Denver. And then don't forget Frisco. Don't forget Frisco is going to be, in a sense, because that's where Ryans came from. So it's the ante's going to be stepped up a little bit. So
yeah, but San Francisco got to come to them.
Yes, so I understand that. Yes. You're right about that.
I'll say this: the Texans will struggle if they lose a couple of division games. I think they're going to have to dominate their division to have a good season. Because if you lose those division games, and then you have to play another monster after a division game, that could be 2 to 3 losses in a row. And I don't think they're a team that could recover from 3 to 4 losses in a row with their schedule. But I still think they dominate their division and easily get to 10 wins. Easily.
Yeah, I could see them, 5-1 in the division, to be honest with you. Honestly can see that. So, that's where you have a great point. So, but the rest of the schedule, I mean.
So how do y'all see it, man? Vegas has them at
9.5.
9.5. So we're going over under here. Now, one key thing about this Texans schedule that we got to pay attention to is they are playing a first place schedule. Remember, because they were first in their division last year. But the teams that they're playing that were first place teams, they're spread out, like Pat said, and they got these division games sandwiched in between those teams. So you don't really have this real difficult stretch of games that you have to play. I think you pointed it out too, Coach. That 4-game stretch right there is probably the hardest stretch on their schedule. Baltimore, Seattle, San Francisco, Denver. Then you get Jacksonville, Tennessee again, Buffalo, but then you get Indy, Kansas City, but then you get Arizona and Vegas. So it's not really daunting, if they can keep that offensive line together. But what y'all got for me, man? Over, under 9.5.
I got to go over because I got them getting 10 wins. I think they're able to survive that big 4-game stretch there. As long as they don't go 0-4 in that stretch, I think they'll be okay. Yeah, get at least one of them. And I think they actually get 2 of them with Seattle and San Francisco in that stretch. But I think they get punished by Denver and lose a hard-fought battle to Baltimore in that stretch. So I got them with 10 wins, man. I got them over.
I got them under at 9. I it would not surprise me if they come away with 8 wins. It would not surprise me.
Well, they got to lose some division games to do that,
man. I think they're going to win 1. Yeah, I think they're going to win 1 to 2. I mean, they're going to lose 1 to 2 division games. And I can tell you right now, it's going to be both Jacksonville and Indianapolis. Those are the 2. I think one of those 4 games, I think they'll. I mean, 2 of those games they'll lose.
We'll see.
We will see. Right now, if I had to say, I'm gonna go with the over, 9.5, just because I don't. And we're gonna get into the rest of this division, but it's not shaping up to be one of the tougher divisions in the NFL. And I think when you have a quarterback like C.J. Stroud, who's a tough-minded quarterback, and you have a coach like Nico Ryans, you know, I do think, you know, them two together, and with their experience now, remember, this is a team that's been together for a couple of years. I think they can push through the 10 wins and take and probably take this division. But let's continue, man. We're going to get into our next team here, right, and we'll be right back, man.